Welcome back to English Explorers, the podcast where we make learning English not just easy, but truly engaging. I'm Mia.
And I'm Alex, and today we're embarking on a journey. Literally. We're talking all about transportation in English, and trust us, it's going to be an easy lesson, packed with practical words and phrases you can use right away.
That's right, Alex. Whether you're commuting to work, planning a trip abroad, or just trying to describe how you got to the grocery store, knowing your transportation vocabulary is absolutely essential. It's a cornerstone of everyday conversation.
Absolutely, and we'll cover everything from the humble bicycle to a soaring jumbo jet. Let's start with the basics, Mia. When we talk about getting around on land, what are some of the first vehicles that come to mind?
Well, the most common one for many of us is the car. Simple enough, right? Then we have public transport like the bus and the train. For those who prefer two wheels, there's the bicycle, or bike for short, and the motorcycle.
And don't forget the scooter, which has become incredibly popular in cities. And for those bigger cities, we often hear subway in North America, or the underground or tube in London, and metro in many other parts of the world, all referring to an underground train system.
Excellent point, Alex. It's good to be aware of those regional differences. Moving to air travel, the primary word is, of course, plane or airplane. For shorter distances or specific purposes, you might hear helicopter.
And on the water, we have boats, which can be small or large, and bigger vessels like ships for long voyages, or ferries for crossing a body of water with cars and passengers.
So we've got the nouns down. Now, how do we talk about using these vehicles? This is where verbs and prepositions come into play, and they can sometimes trip people up.
They certainly can. Let's clarify. If you're operating a vehicle like a car or a bus, you drive it. So, I drive my car to work every day. If you're a passenger on a bus, train, or plane, you take it. I take the bus to the city center.
And for bicycles, motorcycles, or even horses, you ride them. I ride my bike along the river. And if you're traveling on foot, you simply walk. I often walk to the park.
Now for the tricky part, prepositions. Generally, when you're talking about the mode of transport, we use by. So by car, by bus, by train, by plane, by boat. But notice we say on foot, not by foot.
Crucial distinction. And here's another one. When you're inside a vehicle, the prepositions can change. You're in a car or in a taxi because they're smaller and you generally can't stand up and walk around inside. But you're on a bus, on a train, on a plane, or on a ship. Think of it as being on board a larger public transport system where you can move about.
That's a fantastic way to remember it, Mia. On board for bigger vehicles where you can stand, in for smaller ones. So I could say, I came to the studio by car, but I wished I'd taken the train.
Perfect example. Now let's move on to some practical phrases you'll definitely need. Imagine you're in a new city and need to get somewhere. How do you ask for directions?
A classic. Excuse me, how do I get to the museum? Or could you tell me the way to the nearest subway station? You can also ask, is this the right way to the main square, if you're unsure?
And what if you're buying a ticket? You'd say, I'd like a ticket to London, please. Or specify a single ticket to Brighton or a return ticket to Edinburgh. You might also ask, what time does the next train leave?
Excellent. And for general conversation, imagine someone asks about your commute. You could say, I usually drive to work, but sometimes I take the bus if the traffic is bad. Or, my commute is quite long. I have to take 2 different trains.
Those are great everyday examples. And don't forget phrases for describing the journey itself. The flight was really smooth. Or, we got stuck in heavy traffic on the way here. If you're talking about a train, you might say it was a comfortable ride.
I once took a very bumpy bus ride through the countryside. I could have used that phrase. It was quite an experience. These small details really help paint a picture when you're speaking English.
They really do. And speaking of experiences, sometimes just knowing simple phrases for public transport etiquette can be helpful. Like, Excuse me, is this seat taken? Or could you please move your bag from the seat?
Definitely. These are the kinds of phrases that make you sound more natural and confident. Now, we've mentioned subway, underground, and tube. Are there any other fun regional variations we should touch upon?
Well, in some places, particularly in Australia, they might refer to a tram as a streetcar in parts of North America. And while we generally say petrol in the UK, it's gas or gasoline in the US for your car's fuel.
Right. And if you're driving in the UK or Australia, you drive on the left, whereas in most of Europe and North America, you drive on the right. A small but crucial difference when you're behind the wheel.
Absolutely. Safety first. So, for our listeners who want to put this easy lesson into practice, what are your top tips, Alex?
My biggest tip is to start small. Don't try to memorize everything at once. Focus on the modes of transport you use most often. If you bike to work, practice describing your bike and saying, "I ride my bike."
And try to describe your daily commute in English. Where do you go? How do you get there? What did you see on your journey? Even just mentally rehearsing these sentences can make a huge difference.
Also, pay attention when you're watching movies or TV shows, especially those set in different countries. Listen for how characters talk about getting around. It's a great way to pick up natural phrasing.
And don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how we learn. The goal is to communicate effectively, and practicing these words and phrases will build your confidence incredibly quickly.
So, to quickly recap our journey today, we covered essential vocabulary for land, air, and water transportation, like car, bus, train, plane, and boat.
And we clarified the key verbs like drive, ride, take, and fly, along with the tricky but important prepositions by, on, and in to describe how you travel.
Plus, we equipped you with practical phrases for asking directions, booking tickets, and simply chatting about your travel experiences. These are all incredibly useful tools for your English language toolkit.
Exactly. This easy lesson on transportation is a fantastic stepping stone for improving your everyday English. So, go out there, describe your next journey, and keep exploring the English language.
Thanks for joining us on English Explorers. We'll catch you next time.
Bye for now.